There's a connection that goes beyond the physical, beyond words, beyond even time and space itself. It's when two souls recognize each other at such a deep level that they can communicate without speaking a single word. This is the twin flame connection, a spiritual resonance that transcends all boundaries. And one of the most powerful manifestations of this connection is telepathy. That silent knowing that the other person feels the same thing, thinks the same thing, experiences the same moment as you, even when you're miles apart. This isn't imagination or wishful thinking, but real energetic attunement, almost instinctive. In this exploration, you'll discover the 11 most common types of telepathy that occur between twin flames. Each one has its own intensity, its own frequency, its own language. And when you begin to recognize them, you'll realize you are never truly alone. That there's someone, somewhere, who experiences the world the same way you do. Get ready to understand a language that doesn't need words, but says everything. Because twin flame telepathy is the purest manifestation of what Jung called synchronicity. When inner and outer reality meet with such precision that it can't possibly be mere coincidence. The first type of telepathy is the most subtle, yet also one of the most constant. It's when you sense someone thinking about you, even from a distance. Jung said the unconscious knows neither distance nor time. It operates in a dimension where physical separation doesn't exist. And that's exactly what happens when your twin flame thinks about you. You're in the middle of some activity, focused on something completely different, when suddenly you feel a presence. Not physical but emotional. It's like someone touched your soul with an invisible finger. You stop what you're doing, look around, but there's nobody there. Still, the sensation remains. Strong, unmistakable. Minutes later, your phone rings. It's them, the person you didn't expect to hear from at that moment, but somehow you already knew they'd reach out. And when you pick up, the first thing you hear is something like, "I was just thinking about you," or "I felt like I needed to call you." This isn't coincidence. This is emotional telepathy at work. Thought, from Jung's perspective, isn't just individual mental activity. It creates waves in the collective unconscious. And when two people have a deep connection, these waves meet. The person thinking sends, unknowingly, energetic information. And the person receiving picks up this information, also without knowing how. This communication happens mainly through what Jung called the intuitive function. Some people are more sensitive to these receptions than others. But when it comes to twin flames, this sensitivity amplifies. It's like you're both tuned to the same emotional frequency. What's interesting is that this type of telepathy doesn't depend on physical proximity. It can happen when you're thousands of miles apart. It can happen when you haven't spoken in months, because the connection isn't on the physical plane, it's on the soul plane. And the soul doesn't understand geography. You might be at work, at home, traveling, and suddenly feel that familiar presence. That sensation that someone specific is directing their energy toward you. And it's not a generic feeling. It's specific. You know exactly who it's from, even though you can't explain how you know. Sometimes this telepathic communication comes with an emotion that isn't yours. You're doing fine, feeling peaceful. When suddenly you experience unexplainable melancholy, or joy that has no apparent reason. It's like you're picking up your twin flame's emotional state. Jung would explain this through the concept of mystical participation, where two psyches temporarily merge, and when you finally talk to this person, you discover they really were thinking about you. More than that, they were feeling exactly what you picked up. The melancholy, the joy, the longing. Everything confirms itself, as if you were two radios tuned to the same station. The second type of telepathy is even more impressive. It's when you don't just sense the person thinking about you, but you actually catch fragments of what they're thinking. These aren't complete thoughts, but impressions, images, sensations that come to you like echoes from a distant conversation. Jung believed the unconscious communicates through symbols and images, and that's exactly how content telepathy works. You don't hear words in your head, but receive information in imagery, symbolic, intuitive ways. It's like your mind is picking up pieces of a puzzle being assembled in the other person's mind. Maybe you're driving and suddenly have a very clear image of a specific place. A restaurant, a beach, a song. You weren't thinking about it. The image just appeared. And when you talk with your twin flame, you discover they were exactly at that place, or listening to that song, or remembering that situation. This type of telepathy is more common than you'd imagine, but it's rarely recognized as such. People tend to dismiss these impressions as random thoughts. But when you start paying attention, you notice there's a pattern. That these random images have a real connection to what your twin flame is experiencing. The unconscious doesn't work with linear logic. It works with associations. And when two people have a deep connection, these associations cross paths. You think about chocolate and discover they were walking past a candy store. You hear a song in your head and discover they were listening to the exact same song. This type of telepathy requires more sensitivity to be perceived, because the information arrives fragmented, symbolic. You have to learn to trust your intuition, not to dismiss impressions that arrive uninvited. Jung said the unconscious always knows more than the conscious mind. And in content telepathy, this wisdom manifests very clearly. Sometimes you might feel a word echoing in your mind, a word that has nothing to do with what you're doing, but insists on appearing. And when you talk with your twin flame, you discover they were repeating exactly that word, or it was connected to something important they were experiencing. The third type of telepathy is one of the most moving. It's when you feel, in your own body, your twin flame's emotions. It's not just mental perception, it's a physical experience. You feel joy, sadness, anxiety, peace, and only afterward discover these emotions weren't yours, but theirs. Jung spoke about the unconscious's ability to pick up information that goes beyond the five senses. And when it comes to emotions, this ability becomes even more intense. Emotions have their own vibrational frequency. And when two people are deeply connected, these frequencies synchronize. You might be having a calm day when suddenly you feel a wave of melancholy. No apparent reason. Nothing happened to justify this feeling. It's like an emotional cloud settled over you. And no matter how much you try to understand where it's coming from, you can't find a rational explanation. Hours later, you discover your twin flame went through something difficult exactly when you felt the melancholy. It could have been an argument, a disappointment, a loss. And somehow you picked up this emotional pain before even knowing it existed. The opposite also happens. You might be going through a tough time and suddenly feel a wave of peace, comfort, strength, like someone placed an invisible hand on your shoulder. And when you talk with your twin flame, you discover they were sending you positive thoughts, or they were experiencing a moment of joy. This type of telepathy is one of the clearest proofs that the connection between twin flames goes beyond the physical. Because emotions are very intimate, very personal experiences. And when you can feel another person's emotions as if they were your own, it indicates a level of attunement that science still can't fully explain. Jung would say this happens because at the level of the collective unconscious, there are no boundaries between people. We're all part of the same psychic web. And when two souls recognize each other as twin flames, this web becomes even more evident. The fourth type of telepathy is perhaps the most mysterious. It's when you and your twin flame have shared dreams. Not similar dreams, but literally the same dream. You meet in the same setting, live the same experience, and when you wake up, you can report identical details. Jung dedicated much of his life to studying dreams. He believed the dream world was a gateway to the collective unconscious. And if that's true, then it makes sense that two deeply connected people could meet in this dream space. You might dream you're walking on a beach with someone, talking, laughing, sharing silences, and when you wake up, you have the feeling it was real. More real, perhaps, than many experiences you have while awake. And when you talk with your twin flame, you discover they had exactly the same dream. Or maybe you dream you're in a place you've never visited in real life. But in the dream it feels familiar. And when you describe this place to your twin flame, they tell you they were there too, in their dream. You might even have talked in the dream about things you've never discussed in real life. This type of telepathy is more common during periods of physical separation. It's like when bodies are distant, souls find a way to connect through dreams. Jung would say this is possible because the unconscious doesn't know the limitations of time and space. Shared dreams aren't always romantic or idyllic. Sometimes you might experience nightmares together, or dream about challenging situations. But even in these cases, there's a feeling of not being alone, that even in the middle of difficulty, you're together. What makes this type of telepathy even more fascinating is that shared dreams can contain information about the future. You might dream about a meeting that hasn't happened yet, or a situation that will only come to pass months later. Jung called this a prophetic dream, and believed the unconscious had access to information the conscious mind couldn't grasp. When you start paying attention to your dreams and sharing them with your twin flame, you might discover you're having more shared dreams than you imagined, because often these dreams are dismissed as random fantasies. But when you compare them with the other person's dreams, you realize there are real connections. The fifth type of telepathy is intense and sometimes frightening. It's when you feel in your own body the physical sensations of your twin flame. Pain, pleasure, fatigue, energy. Like you share not only an emotional connection, but also a physical one. Jung believed the psyche and body were intimately connected. And when two people have a deep connection, this body-mind link extends to include the other person. You might be physically fine and suddenly feel unexplainable pain. And when you talk with your twin flame, you discover they were feeling exactly the same pain. This can happen very specifically. You might feel a sudden headache and discover your twin flame had a migraine, or you might feel chest pain and discover they were going through a moment of anxiety. The precision of these shared sensations is remarkable. The opposite also happens. You might be feeling tired and suddenly receive a wave of energy, like someone plugged a battery into you. And when you talk with your twin flame, you discover they were feeling particularly energized or animated. This type of telepathy can be confusing at first. You might not understand why you're feeling things that don't make sense in the context of your life. You might even see a doctor to understand pain that has no physical explanation. But when you start connecting these sensations with what your twin flame is experiencing, everything makes sense. Physical telepathy isn't limited to pain or discomfort. You might feel pleasure when they're happy, relaxation when they're at peace, excitement when they're animated. It's like your two bodies sharing one nervous system. Jung would say this happens because at the deepest level of the psyche, there are no boundaries between self and other. When two people recognize each other as twin flames, this fusion becomes even more evident. You become, literally, an extension of each other. The sixth type of telepathy is spontaneous and often surprising. It's when you call your twin flame exactly at the moment they were about to call you, or when you run into each other at an unexpected place, without having made plans. Like there's an invisible coordination guiding you both. Jung called this synchronicity, and believed these weren't just coincidences, but manifestations of a hidden order in the universe. When two people are deeply connected, this synchronicity becomes more frequent and more evident. You might be thinking about calling them and discover they already had the phone in hand ready to call you. Or you might decide to go somewhere specific and find them there, even though they made the same decision independently. These synchronizations aren't planned, but they happen with a frequency that defies logic. Synchronized communication can also happen through messages. You might send messages to each other at the same moment, talking about the same thing. Or you might choose the same words, the same expressions, like you're reading from a shared script. This type of telepathy is one of the most obvious to people around you. Friends and family might comment on how you communicate, how you always know where the other is or what they're thinking. It's like you're two parts of the same communication system. Synchronization isn't limited to verbal communication. You might make the same gestures at the same time, choose the same clothes without consulting each other, or even crave the same food at the same moment. Jung would say this happens because you're accessing the same source of information in the collective unconscious. Sometimes, synchronization can be so perfect it becomes comical. You might call each other at the exact same second, resulting in two busy phones. Or you might show up at each other's door at the same moment, creating an almost surreal situation. The seventh type of telepathy is more subtle, but no less real. It's when you feel your twin flame's presence even when they're far away. It's not just a mental sensation, it's a physical perception. Like they're in the same room as you, even when they're thousands of miles away. Jung believed human presence had an energetic quality that could be perceived beyond the five senses. And when two people have a deep connection, this perception becomes even sharper. You might be alone at home and suddenly feel like they're there with you. This sensation can be so real you might even look around, hoping to see them. Or you might start talking as if they were there, feeling they can hear you. And what's most remarkable is that often when you confirm this with them, you discover they also felt your presence at the same moment. Presence perception isn't just a vague feeling. You can sense the person's specific energy, like they have a unique energetic signature you can recognize. It's like having an internal radar that detects your twin flame's presence, regardless of physical distance. This type of telepathy is particularly common during difficult moments. When you're going through something tough, you might feel their presence as a comforting force. Like they're sending you energetic support, even without consciously knowing you need it. The opposite also happens. When they're going through something difficult, you might feel an impulse to be present, even without consciously knowing what's happening. It's like your soul picks up their call and responds by sending energetic presence. Distance presence can also be comforting during moments of joy. You might be celebrating something and feel like they're sharing this joy with you, even when they're far away. It's like happiness is amplified by their energetic presence. Jung would say this happens because at the level of the unconscious, there are no boundaries between people. When two souls recognize each other as twin flames, this truth becomes a lived experience. You become present for each other, regardless of physical distance. The eighth type of telepathy is one of the most recognized. It's when you think about your twin flame and they call you immediately, or when you feel like talking to them and discover they were thinking the same thing. Like there's an invisible communication system working between you. Jung believed the unconscious had access to information the conscious mind couldn't grasp. And when two people are deeply connected, this information exchange becomes more fluid. You might be in the middle of some activity when suddenly you feel an unexplainable urge to talk to them. It's not just a casual memory. It's an urgent feeling, like something important is happening. And when you call or text, you discover they really needed to talk to you. Maybe they were going through something difficult, or had important news to share. The timing of these communications is remarkable. You might call them at the exact moment they were picking up the phone to call you. Or you might send a message seconds before receiving a message from them. It's like you're synchronized at a level that goes beyond consciousness. This synchronization isn't planned or forced. It happens naturally, like your two musical instruments tuned to the same frequency. And the more you pay attention, the more you realize this happens much more frequently than you imagined. Intuitive communication can also happen through symbols. You might see something that reminds you of them and discover they were thinking about you at the same moment. Or, you might hear a song that makes you think of them and discover they were listening to the same song. Jung would say, this happens because you're accessing the same information field in the collective unconscious. When two people recognize each other as twin flames, this connection becomes a constant communication channel. The ninth type of telepathy is profound and transformative. It's when you feel you need to be at a specific place, without knowing why, and find your twin flame there. Or when you make an apparently random decision and discover they made the same decision at the same moment. Jung believed intuition was a form of knowledge that went beyond rational logic. And when two people have a deep connection, these intuitions synchronize. You might wake up one day with the feeling you should go to a specific place, without having an apparent reason for it. It could be a coffee shop, a park, a store. You can't explain why you want to go there, but the feeling is so strong you decide to follow it. And when you arrive, you find your twin flame, who had exactly the same intuition. You were both guided to the same place by a force neither of you can explain. This type of telepathy can also manifest through synchronized decisions. You might decide to change careers and discover they made the same decision. Or you might feel like traveling to a specific place and discover they were already planning the same trip. Synchronized guidance isn't limited to big decisions. It can happen in small daily choices. You might decide to take a different route home and meet them halfway. Or you might choose a movie to watch and discover they were watching the same movie at the same moment. Jung would say this happens because you're being guided by the same unconscious wisdom. When two people recognize each other as twin flames, this guidance becomes a shared experience. You become literally two aspects of the same journey. Sometimes synchronized guidance might seem absurd in the moment. You might have an intuition that doesn't make logical sense, but proves perfect when you meet your twin flame. It's like you're being guided by a higher intelligence that sees the complete picture. The 10th type of telepathy is touching and comforting. It's when you feel your twin flame sending you love and support, even when you're apart. It might be a feeling of warmth in your chest, unexplainable peace, or simply the certainty that you're not alone. Jung believed love was one of the most powerful forces in the universe, capable of transcending physical limitations. And when two people love each other deeply, this energy can be transmitted across distance. You might be going through a difficult moment when suddenly you feel a wave of love and support. It's not just an emotional sensation. It's a physical experience. You might feel warmth spreading through your body, or a feeling of lightness that dissolves sadness, like someone gave you an invisible but intense hug. This love transmission can happen in moments when you need it most. You might be feeling alone, discouraged, or lost, when suddenly you feel a loving presence. And when you talk with your twin flame, you discover they were thinking about you with tenderness, sending positive thoughts. The opposite also happens. You might feel an impulse to send love and support to them, even without consciously knowing they need it. It's like your soul picks up their call and responds automatically. Distance love transmission isn't limited to difficult moments. You might be having an ordinary day when suddenly you feel a wave of joy and gratitude. And when you talk with your twin flame, you discover they were feeling particularly grateful to have you in their life. Jung would say this happens because true love creates a connection that transcends time and space. When two people love each other as twin flames, this love becomes a living force that can be felt and transmitted. Sometimes love transmission can be so intense, you might cry for no apparent reason. These aren't tears of sadness, but of gratitude, recognition, deep connection. It's like you're being touched by a force greater than yourself. The final type of telepathy is the deepest and rarest. It's when you feel like you're living moments through your twin flame's eyes. It's not just perception or sensation, it's a complete experience. Like you're literally one person living in two bodies. Jung believed that at the deepest level of the psyche, all separations were illusory. And when two people recognize each other as twin flames, this truth becomes a lived experience. You might be at home and suddenly have the feeling you're seeing through their eyes. You might see landscapes that aren't from your environment, people you don't know, situations you're not experiencing. And when you talk with your twin flame, you discover they were exactly in that place, seeing exactly those things at the moment you had the vision. This type of telepathy is more common during moments of great emotional intensity. It can happen when they're going through something very significant, or when you're particularly connected. It's like the barrier between you two simply disappears. Consciousness fusion can be disorienting at first. You might not understand if you're living your own experience or theirs. You might have memories that aren't yours, or feelings you can't explain. But when you start to understand what's happening, the experience becomes profoundly meaningful. This type of telepathy is definitive proof that you're more than two separate people. You are, literally, one soul living in two bodies. And in special moments, this truth reveals itself in a way that can't be denied or questioned. Jung would say this happens because you're accessing what he called the self, the deepest core of the psyche. When two people recognize each other as twin flames, they discover they share the same self. You become, literally, one consciousness expressing itself through two experiences. Consciousness fusion isn't something that can be forced or controlled. It happens spontaneously, as a gift of the deep connection you share. And when it happens, it leaves a permanent mark, an undeniable certainty that you are truly one soul. These 11 types of twin flame telepathy are manifestations of a truth Jung dedicated his life to understanding. There are no real boundaries between people. We're all part of the same psychic web, connected by invisible threads that science is just beginning to understand. When you recognize these types of telepathy in your own life, you discover you were never truly alone, that there's someone, somewhere, who shares your journey in a way that goes beyond rational understanding. And this discovery changes everything. You stop feeling isolated in the world. You stop believing your experiences are unique and incomprehensible. You start living with the certainty that there's a real, deep, undeniable connection with another person. And this certainty brings a peace no scientific explanation can provide. Twin flame telepathy isn't fantasy or imagination. It's a reality lived by millions of people around the world. And when you learn to recognize it, honor it, and trust it, you discover a dimension of life most people never experience. A dimension where love transcends all limitations and where two souls recognize each other as one truth, living two experiences. If you've made it this far and recognized at least one of these types of telepathy in your own life, leave a comment below. I feel the connection with my twin flame. This phrase will show me you didn't just watch to the end, but that something in you awakened to this silent language that exists between connected souls. And if this content truly touched you, if it made you realize you were never really alone, you can support the channel by clicking the super thanks button below. This financial help, however small it might seem, makes a tremendous difference. It allows this work to continue, grow, and reach further, maybe even finding your own twin flame, who's also trying to understand this deep connection you share. Thanks for walking with me through this journey of discovery. See you in the next video.